Hello and welcome to episode 10. We're back again. Welcome back, Dan. How you doing?
I'm good, Ollie. I'm good. How are you?
Yep, I'm well, thank you, mate. I'm good. Last time obviously there was you, me, and you, and Murray, and then Mike, you missed that one. Welcome back. How you doing?
Yeah, I missed the last two. I think I was last year after Warsaw, which feels like an age ago, and I seem to only pop up after sort of relatively positive results, even though I'm fuming. It don't seem to be the right opportunity to get it out, but yeah, we'll see.
And Chris, you missed a couple.
Yeah, I feel like I'm back in pre-season training. I'm a bit rusty
demoted.
Tonight.
Maybe Dan, maybe we demoted him.
We'll see how it goes. But yeah, good to be back.
You see the sang of the Shrewsbury Town squad. He's back in action.
That's a very unkind thing to say.
That really feels hard.
Where do we go with that? I mean, my goodness, Chris, that's fighting talk.
No, good to have you back on, Chris.
January transfer window. Are you selling me in this window? Are you?
Not for much.
Maybe, I won't carry on. Thanks guys for joining. Obviously it's been an interesting few weeks. We've got 3 games to cover. We thought it'd be good to come back before too long. Sometimes, when the defeats keep mounting up, we leave the podcast for a while, but we didn't want to do that. And obviously there's a lot of transfer activity going on as well, and lots of rumours going along. So let's get into that. So 3 games to cover: Bristol Rovers, Harrogate, and obviously we do have to hopefully only quickly cover the FA Cup. Let's jump into it.
Graham Turner watching on in front of him. Everday, lovely ball in, could be an own goal. It's still there, still alive for Harold. Harold pulls it back. What a night for Graham Turner. Shrewsbury Town, it's the wreck. It's embarrassing for Harrogate. It's Shrewsbury 4, 0.
First game we need to cover, Bristol Rovers at home. Steve Evans, the new Steve Evans, was back in the Football League. And what does a team need, Mike, who's been on a bad run? Who do they need to play?
You've got to roll up to Shrewsbury Town and take on the mighty Shrews, who are what we call the ultimate run enders, aren't they? Yeah.
Unfortunately for us, Bristol Rovers went back to losing ways when we actually sit currently above them in the league table, which is nice. But this game, story of our season. I thought we were the better side for the first half an hour or so, certainly first half. I still can't get over that Marcus didn't score that chance, Mike. These games, the bottom of the league table, Michael Apton's constantly talking about the importance to get that first goal. And I still can't believe Marcus didn't. It was a really nice bit of play from McDermott, wasn't it, to do a 1-2 with him? Yeah. And a terrible finish.
It was a good opening, like you're saying. It was a really important part of the match as well, because like you say, we'd started strongly. We were on the front foot in an absolutely crucial relegation 6-pointer, which is a phrase people use, isn't it? And it was like, if we score, then I think if we go ahead, it's probably a different game, to be honest with you. But once again, I mean, John Marquis is our top goal scorer this season, but I don't know, feel that confident with him on a clear-cut chance. He's good at finishing off just in and around the box, but when he's through on goal and he's got too much time to think about it, I think often he does sort of overthink it a little bit, and he drags his shot into the post. He'd probably argue an inch right, and it goes in off the post, and it's a matter of inches. But it was a problem, and very recently as well. And I thought this might have been the case against Harrogate at the weekend. We do have spells where we're on top, and we don't take our chances, and we come to rue that, don't we? We come to really, and then we cough up an easy chance or two, and that's it. So it was really frustrating when he missed that, and you're looking around the stand already. People have got heads in hands and thinking, it's not going to be our day again. So, really disappointing. And it proved.
One thing I'd say about it, though, Mike, crucial. I mean, I totally buy that. And, of course, it was at the South Stand end. So, it was right in front of us. Is that he was at least positive. He got the ball. He turned. One touch, bang. Now, a lot of the time, I think cut forwards who are low on confidence, they take too long, or they take too many touches. And you can sense they don't really believe they're going to score. I think Marcus thought he was going to score. Oh, he just didn't.
Well, that's the problem, isn't it? Yeah.
So I give him that. At least he was positive, but I do wish it had gone in.
Yeah, and then obviously at the side stand and Dan, Chris in our WhatsApp chat hasn't been too kind to our goalkeeper recently. Chris, I'd be interested to get Chris's thoughts on him. But obviously, a mix-up between McDermott and Brooke caused a big mistake at the back.
When you can see things coming and it's like you're walking through this sort of horror scenario that you just know is going to develop. Well, for us where I was sitting in the side stand, as soon as that ball went over McDermott's head, you could sense that our keeper was not talking or was not loud enough, because it looked like McDermott didn't know where to head it. Now, he shouldn't have done what he did. He should have been more authoritative than he was. But I do feel in situations like that, with the keeper having the whole game in front of him, you got to boss the situation. He's a young keeper. He's going to make mistakes, and he hasn't made many this year. He's been a better acquisition than I think any of us realised he was going to be. But it was on him that. And the thing is, I don't know if any of you noticed at the end of the game, he was the last person off the pitch by about 2 minutes. And I was a bit annoyed that none of the senior players had noticed that he didn't need any explaining about what a clanger it was. And you could see he was almost in tears. In fact, he might have been in tears. I wasn't close enough to tell. And I hope some of the senior players put their arm around him and said, look, shit happens. And, you drop clangers, and everyone sees them when you're a keeper. But it didn't look like that was happening on the pitch. So maybe it did afterwards. But yeah, it was a car crash, and it was horrific to be giving that goal away at any time. But to go 1-0 down to a side in such bad form felt like, it wasn't an enjoyable journey back. That's for sure. It felt horrible in so many ways.
Nasty reaction from the crowd at the end of that game as well, wasn't it? Lots of anger because obviously Bristol Rovers scored a second and a third very quickly, and the atmosphere got toxic very quickly. And it was you could see that it wasn't a happy place to be in the stands or on the pitch at the end of that game. It was interesting. Obviously, I had my son with me, and you see things differently through the eyes of a 10-year-old, and he was quite shocked by the anger in the crowd. And at the end, he went down to the front and he was trying to clap the players because he was feeling sorry for them. And it made me look over at them. You mentioned Will Brook then. He looked absolutely crestfallen. I don't know if any of you actually looked at Will Brook at the end of that game. I mean, I wasn't close enough to tell if he was actually crying, but it wouldn't surprise me. He looked.
We saw it as well. He looked like his world had fallen apart, right?
And he made a mistake in that game. And the game before, we'd lost at Grimsby, and Grimsby shared their winning goal from that game on social media, which they'd filmed with a camera behind the goal. And I remember watching that footage, and it was clear watching it that he should have saved it. And he's made a few mistakes lately, and he doesn't need telling. He clearly knows that. And I thought at the end of the Rovers game, you could see it. He didn't look a happy guy. And I did feel for him because, Ollie says I've criticised him, and I have a bit. I've said he's made mistakes, but I also agree with Dan. He's been a fantastic signing, and I really like him. And I'm really pleased he's managed to bounce back this weekend and keep a clean sheet. But he looked a broken man at the end of that game, and it wasn't nice to see. You remind yourself that they're just young lads. He's 22 years old, and he's got a lot of pressure on his shoulders. He's been thrust in to a struggling football league side, and he sees from that crowd what it means to our supporters and how much we care. And you could see he felt maybe like he'd let us down or whatever. And it was a horrible atmosphere that day. It wasn't fun. Didn't enjoy it at all.
I think that's when you're looking for leadership, like Dan says, leadership from the senior members of the squad. You're looking for Marquise, Boyle, those sort of characters, Clue Class, to be able to spot that and look after him. But I think they're all quite mentally shot as well. They're low on confidence. And for all the talk of the summer, when we were bringing in some of these sort of large age signings, Anderson, Stubbs, being a couple of others, and all the talk of bringing in leadership and bringing in leaders, I don't see a huge amount of it out there in terms of, looking after some of the younger players, but also just reaction to letting in goals, reactions to things not going right on the pitch. I'm not seeing a lot of leadership from some of our senior players. I think that's partly the fault of the reason that we're in the state we are a little bit. We're a bit rudderless when things start going wrong out there or we make a mistake. I think it's a problem alongside a lot of the other problems that we've got in the squad, which doesn't really protect players like Brook when they make a mistake, I think.
Yeah, lack of leadership is quite evident, isn't it? In key moments of the game, we don't see much encouragement, and it's we signed experienced pros, but as we know, the team is not performing very well, is it? But
even down to Appleton on the sideline, he's like a statue. The only one who really moves out there is the goalkeeper coach, the Beast. He's up and down and shouting at people, but I don't know, just a little bit more guidance for some of these younger players, a little bit more encouragement, maybe. It wouldn't go amiss, I don't think. Not to Ainsworth levels. There's got to be something in the middle, I think, possibly.
Yeah, no, definitely. Any final comments on the Rovers game? Obviously, it was a really poor run. Yeah, for me, it was a toxic end to the game, as Chris said, but I don't think it was unjustified per se. It was obviously a massive game, a terrible performance. Everyone leaving early, and it was just for me a moment just to reflect on how poor this club is at the moment, and the decay that we're seeing on and off the pitch at the moment.
Just to remind that was New Year's Day as well. I was just going to say, if we were hoping that New Year, fresh start and all that, it kind of burst that bubble straight away, didn't it? And it left us all feeling. We'd announced a new signing that morning as well. You could see the club had tried to pump things up a bit. They announced Ewan Morgan, on the morning of that game. He couldn't play that day, but they announced he'd signed. So, new signing, big game in the afternoon. And yeah, unfortunately, it turned out to be quite a flat start to 2026.
It absolutely did, and we'll get on to this, the 2026 start was clearly against Harrogate because we had 4 new players in and around the squad. We had another one watching, and we hadn't signed yet, or they hadn't signed as of Sunday night. Now, 5 new players in that team, it makes a significant difference.
We're going to come to that, aren't we? He's obviously having a real go at changing this team around. Yeah. So,
and of course, he couldn't do that for New Year's Day because of the logistics of getting players signed on. No. But thankfully, that might be the last day of the past. It doesn't mean the future is all going to be sweetness and light, but I'm pretty pleased that we're not going into the rest of the season with that squad because we'd have more of those days.
Yeah,
and we are arguing that possibly we're quite lucky to get Salford postponed, give us a chance at a run at it with some better players. That might be
best result of the Christmas season.
Maybe,
yeah, all over that.
Yeah, and we went into the Wolves game. I was asked to go on Boots to Shropshire. I went on, and Stu Dodd asked me if I was excited about the game, and not in the slightest was I excited about this game. I couldn't bring myself to buy a ticket, and then I just assumed that maybe I'd be able to get one closer to the time. But yeah, club messed this one up as they seem to mess a lot of things up at the moment, Mike. But you heard some things on the grapevine about what happened with the tickets.
I mean, I heard, I can't prove any of this, but I heard that we were offered a bigger allowance and we only took the 3,000 because we were concerned about being left holding tickets we had to pay for. I think the club clearly hadn't thought of the fact that it's a big derby. It's probably the only big away day we've got this season that anyone's going to be interested in. It was only a tenner, so we're probably going to sell quite a lot of tickets anyway. They sold them out. I know a few people who, because of the way it was tiered, they were going to go in a big group, but they didn't want to buy their tickets in the season ticket park because when the people who didn't have season tickets were available, they would all be sat separately. So they were waiting for the tickets to go on general sale. By the time it did, they couldn't sit together. So there was people who didn't attend, or people who ended up trying to get in home end, all sorts of stuff. And essentially, the long and short of it was, I heard that by the time the club sort of got back to Wolves and said, "Oh, we will have the tickets now," the Wolves had said, "Well, we sorted out the stewarding, we sorted out the policing, the food, the catering. If you want the additional 1,800, you've got to have them all, and any that you don't sell, you're on the hook for the costs." And the club said, "Well, we can't afford that." So a bit of a ticket in shambles. That's just what I heard. The club have got right to reply if they want to get in contact and tell us what actually happened. But it's a shame that it wasn't a bigger away day for a lot more people that could have gone and made some noise and support the team. As it was, I think with the travel conditions and stuff, I think a few people that did have tickets didn't actually end up going because it was difficult to get there in the end, wasn't it? So
yeah, trains.
I don't know how you guys got with that.
Well, it was ironic actually, Mike. Everyone I met was having problems. With Ice and Snow, and M54 was closed at one point. The trains were all being cancelled. Best journey ever from Ascot. God knows why. Dirt cheap as well for reasons that aren't clear to me. It was one of those odd, super cheap routes. So I had the best journey, logistic-wise, that I could possibly have had. It was weird. No one else did. So I felt a bit gifted there, a bit lucky.
But the gifts and the
that was the highlight of the day. Let's be clear.
Yeah, very, very quickly, because it's a game that I wasn't looking forward to, and I was. Yeah, we have bigger fish to fry. At that point in time, I was more interested to understand who we're actually going to sign. But obviously, we conceded after 9 minutes, then we conceded after 11. And we did have a bit of a hope that we were going to do something when Marquis scored, Chris. And what was your kind of thoughts at that moment in time? Obviously, what was your thoughts after 11 minutes and what was your thoughts after 26?
Well, to give my thoughts on the first 11 minutes, we have to touch on the team news, I think. So we were shocked at the start of this game to see that Brooke had been dropped and Eli Harrison had come in from the cold, a guy who hadn't played for us since back in September. We've already touched on Brooke, and I could see the manager's argument that he has dipped in form a little bit. I could see that. But even if that's the case, I thought this wasn't the game to do that, in my opinion. this was a chance for our players to play at a Premier League ground, and I felt that Wilbrook had earned the right to do that. And I felt for him. I thought it must have been a devastating blow for him to be left out. And it must have been an even bigger blow for him when he sat on the touchline and after 9 minutes, Wolves break down the side, ball comes across. Eli Harrison didn't seem to know what to do. He started to come out, went back. He was left in no man's land, and poor defending as well. We ended up giving Strand Larsen all the space in the world. It was a nice finish. I don't know what view you had of it, Dan. I think he kind of backheeled it in a way. It was a nice little finish, but it shouldn't have happened. It's not to me that the keeper should have come out and taken the ball. It was as simple as that. I just didn't understand.
But until he got to that point, it was up to Larsen to put it in the net, and he did so very, very nicely. I mean, I got a question more about anything else with. So did we know that we were sending Harrison back when we picked him for that game? Because if we did, then I really don't understand it. If we thought there might be more of a long-term future for Harrison, then I sort of can see a certain logic to it in that we will play him as our number one for a period of time. But I think the answer to that question is quite important, because I really don't understand what
Appleton had already given an interview where he said he was likely to go back. So yeah.
And the BBC and national BBC had also reported, like maybe even a week before then, that he was going back as well.
So if Appleton was thinking, I'm going to take him out of the firing line for a period of time, okay, I wouldn't have done. I'm with you, Chris. I thought it was a very big call to make. But then, of course, you bring in the boy from Brentford and you play him against Harrogate. But no, you bring in Brooke back. I'm struggling to see any logic with this.
I talked to some people who were there who, I'll be honest, left after 12 minutes because it was so bad, and they ended up in the home end and they just couldn't stand it. And they told, because I asked them about this Brooke thing, and they said, well, Town were playing a really high line on the day, and they thought that Harrison had been brought in to try and play football in the space left by a high line, because he's better with the ball.
We'll get to the third goal in a minute for how that went.
Exactly right.
Nice segue, Mike. Yeah.
I think it was a tactical manoeuvre by Appleton, and I think he was getting a bit too smart for himself, thinking he could go to a Premier League team and play football. And because that was the only thing that would explain a high line with the slow.
The only other thing I think was this Appleton's way of trying to maintain a positive relationship with Man United. It was like, yes, he's going back. He hasn't played many games. Okay, I'll play him in the last game in the FA Cup to give him an experience playing at Wolves, just to try and maybe keep the loan manager at Man United happy.
I think you might be overthinking that, Ollie, from being brutally honest. I don't know that, though. I mean, possibly it hadn't occurred to me.
We don't know.
I mean, yeah, we don't know.
Yeah.
But what I would say, Chris, I was interested in your take, though, the 2-0. I mean, when we went 2-1, there was a period of time where we had a chance to get back in the game. So the third goal, not just it comes at the wrong time, but the way it comes is awful. We might talk more about that in a minute. Just a rank bad pass. And Strand Larsen went straight up to Harrison afterwards and sort of said, shit happens, and that's something that you'll move on from. But also, we had a great chance at 3-1 at the beginning of the second half.
Klukas off the line, yeah.
Yeah. Now, if Klukas had scored then, again, we probably lost 6-2 for all I know. But the point remains, if he'd scored then 3-2, then who knows? We are in a slightly different position than suddenly being 4-1 down, 5-1 down. And by the way, it's the second time I've seen us lose 6-1 at Molineux, Chris. Are you in that camp too?
I'm not. I know of the game, and I think we discussed it. We back in 1991-92, but I wasn't there. No.
Yeah, not many times I've seen us lose 6-1 at two grounds. I'm
with you in that at 2-1. Despite a disastrous start, we played ourselves back into the game a little bit. And you're playing a Premier League team who were low on confidence, and frankly, they've got a lot to lose and not a lot to gain in this game, as it were, because they're expected to beat us, aren't they? So there's no great plaudits to Wolves for beating Shrewsbury, 2-1, 3-1. But there's a lot for them to miss out on if it goes wrong for them. There's a lot of criticism they're going to get. So we played. I think if we'd got to half time at 2-1, it would have been nervy in their dressing room, and that third goal, I'm sure, settled them down. And again, it was a horrendous gift, wasn't it? I mean, Eli Harrison, I don't want to weigh into the kid too much, but it was awful, and he'll know that. Everybody will know. You couldn't miss it. It was shocking, given that he was brought here to be a ball-playing goalkeeper. To gift a goal like that to the opposition was horrendous. And like you say, we tried, and we got very close to 3-2, and not just that didn't go in, Dan. It was a decent effort, but they broke straight up the other end and got the fourth goal from the clearance, effectively. So we went from being within a whisker of back to one goal behind, and suddenly it's 4-1 and the game's gone.
Big difference in it, 4-1 and 3-2.
And it happened within the space of less than a minute. Those two things. That's
Can I
how
say a couple of
remember.
positives though? I mean, I'm interested that your friends left after 15 minutes, Mike. I mean, what they expect? I enjoyed watching Lopez play. He's a good footballer. I mean, it was quite on the way up. Somebody said to me, "Do you think Wolves will play their strongest team?" I didn't even know what their strongest team was going to look like. But that boy Lopez, number 8, he's a proper football player. It was great watching him. And I remember saying to one of my kids, "Just look at the way the two-touch stuff. Just gets the ball out of his feet and passes it." No, I didn't go there to be, to wonder at the Premier League footballers. But on the other hand, if they're going to play good football, I thought Stan Larson was brilliant. The lad's touch is phenomenal. He can't even get in Wolves' side. So
Easiest hat trick he'll ever get, mind you. Although he took the last one very nicely.
He took the back heel quite well. But my point was that they're good players. And once you're going to lose the game, we might as well watch the rest of the game and see what else you can get out of it. And I thought Lopez.
If you're in the away end, maybe these guys ended up in the home end because they couldn't get tickets and sitting around in the Molineux with a load of Wolves fans taking the piss. I think if you can see the writings on the wall, you may as well cut and run. I think sometimes.
Each their own.
That's the justification. I can't see anything wrong with that, to be honest. But yeah, I'm glad I missed it. Anyway, I was while the town were making a mess of things, I was in the Natural History Museum studying a few fossils, which I thought might get a bit of a game in our back line. They looked a bit pacier than some of our defenders. So that was my day anyway,
Yeah, I think I was, it's at the FA Cup. The whole thing.
So one thing about the FA Cup, though, because we got the 7:13 out of Ascot, right? Nobody at Ascot Station at that time, and we heard someone singing, or two people singing in the sort of subway that goes under the station, and definitely football fans, and we're like, "Who the bloody hell are these two clowns? Well, where are they going?" And they ended up coming up on our platform, and they were Blackpool fans, and they were talking about Tom Bloxham, and I said, "Where are you going?" I said, "Oh, Ipswich," and one of them apparently lived in Ascot. But then I said, "You had a couple of beers, have you?" He said, "Oh yeah, we started at 10 o'clock last night, and we knew it was going to be a long day, so we've just gone through." And I could tell they'd just gone through, and they had 24 Stellas in a box, and they were going to go through all day. And they said, "We just want to see a goal." So they scored a penalty at Blackpool, at Ipswich, and I did think of those boys, and I couldn't help but wonder if they were still awake to see it, because I'm way too old for any of that shenanigans. But it was quite funny seeing those characters.
Two positives from me from that game was the two debuts as well, because we obviously had our two new loan signings playing at Wolves. Ewan Morgan started the game. Looked promising. My biggest memory of Ewan Morgan in that game was his throwing. We've got another lad with a big throw now, and he showed it at Wolves. I thought, blimey, that was, it was better than George Nurse's, certainly better than Sam Stubbs. He's got one hell of a.
Well, it was actually a long throw. Is that what you're saying? Unlike
Wolves is quite a big pitch, wasn't it? And yet, still that throw in was flying into this middle of the penalty area. So he's got a big one on him. And then they brought on Trey Ogunsoyi as well as a substitute later on. And we'd only signed him the day before, hadn't we? I think Appleton said he only actually met the players on the morning of the game. Well, he looked like he had something about him in that Wolves game. I thought in that 10 or 15 minutes, I thought, okay, yeah, I can see that you could contribute. So I suppose if you look from a 6-1 morning, you're looking for a few positives. I was thinking maybe there's a bit of hope there with some of the boys that we've already brought in that they will improve us. So, and obviously we're going to get onto the Harrogate game in a minute, and I think that'll be a theme again.
I got a last question about Wolves. Did any of you see Big Shay in the away end? Shay Dunkley turned up, didn't he, to watch the match? I saw online. Nice to see. I always like Shay. So yeah, great to see him there. I think. Yeah,
he was at the other end to me, but I did see the pictures. But I'm all for that. You know what? Some people were knocking him for it. I mean, he just wants to watch a football game, right?
That's weird. Yeah. What's the problem? If he wants to come and watch town play football, fine.
He's obviously
also nice that he thinks enough of the town to come back and watch us as well. It wasn't just a payday for him a couple of years and off. Like he's from Wolverhampton, I believe, and they were back in town, so he thought, he'd come and have a look. So good on him. I always liked Shay, and I think it's a mark of his character that he still stays in touch with the club and supports us, even though he was only here a brief spell. So yeah, good lad.
Was he involved in the chanting about Wycherley? You'd hope so, wouldn't you?
I'm sure he'd call him Mr. Chairman like they all do if they play for us. Yeah.
Cool. Do we want to do the Harrogate game, or do we actually want to do all the transfers? Because obviously transfers, there's a lot going on. And yeah, I don't know, Chris, do you want to take us through who we've signed, who's exited, and then probably I think it's worth going through all of it, and then we can come back to the Harrogate.
I think it makes sense.
I have to bring up my agenda. There's been so much going on. I won't remember. If I try to do it off the top of my head, I'll miss someone. So I've already done Ewan Morgan and Trey Ogunsoyi. They came in ahead of the Wolves game, so that they'd already played. And obviously at that point, we'd already seen Harrison Biggins go out. He's gone to Newport County. George Nurse had gone to Cheltenham. Alex Gilead had been extended with his loan at Carlisle. So lots out, lots in already. And then in the last week after the Wolves game, we had Josh Ruffles having his contract extended for the rest of the season. I know that's not a new face, but his contract was basically up. I think it was this week. So that was a bonus for us that I think that we've got him for the rest of the season, because I think there is a quality footballer in there. We've signed Nick Freeman, who's the lad who's come in as a sort of utility player. We're told he can play midfield, right wing back, right back, as we obviously saw on his debut. So, yeah, he's a versatile player. He's been out for 10 months. We seem to like players with an ACL injury, don't we? We've had George Nurse leave after double ACL, and now we're bringing in this lad who's just back after his own ACL. He hadn't played a league game for 10 months when we signed him, but on paper he looks like a decent signing. And we've brought in a new goalkeeper, haven't we, to replace Eli Harrison. So Matt Cox, who's coming on loan from Brentford. I know a little bit about him. He's already had a couple of loans, so I think that's a positive for us in a way. He's not a total unknown quantity, and he's got some league experience. I think he went to Bristol Rovers. He struggled a bit there a couple of years ago, and he sort of was taken out of the team halfway through the season. And then he went to Crawley on loan last year, but he got injured after only 3 games playing for them. So this is his third stab at it, as it were, and he'll be waiting for his chance. I'd assumed he'd come straight into the team, if I'm honest, a bit like Dan touched on. I expected that to happen. But no, he's found himself on the bench, and given that we subsequently kept a clean sheet, I imagine he'll stay on the bench for a bit yet. But so, yeah, those are what we've brought in already, and then there's hints of more to come, aren't there? So there's been lots of talk of Isaac Lee, a young defender playing for Flint Town United in the Cymru Premier. He was actually at
Did you
our
guys
game
see the photo of him? That photo that was circulating online. He's massive.
I said it's either he's massive or Michael Appleton's a midget, because it's an interesting photograph. The contrast between the two of them.
He's got 5, isn't he? Plays for Flint Town.
Yeah, he's a big old lad. So it's a big step up, though. I think I feel for him a bit. There's been so much hype about this signing now, and pictures of him and news stories about it because he's at the ground. And I think, it's not like we're signing some kind of wow signing from the Premier League here. We're signing.
You're saying this is a Mickey Moore project signing?
Well, I hope that he's very good, comes in and has an instant impact, obviously. But at the same time, I think people need to temper it a little bit. He's playing for a team in the Welsh Premier, and they're right down near the bottom of it as well. I think they're second or third bottom, Flint. So he's in a team that's used to conceding a lot of goals in a league that's far, far weaker than ours. So if he comes into our team, it's going to be, used to conceding goals, that's for sure. But it's a step up in class, so we'll see.
For once in my life, I watched Appleton's post-match after Saturday, and he said there's a deal in place for him to come, but he's got other options as well. So I think there is a bit of a bidding war for him. I think he's attracting interest from clubs at our level. So presumably there's a player there that more than we are seeing. So hopefully there's something to be, be gathered from him. I
suspect he will. I don't know. I hope I'm not proved wrong here, but it's very unusual to see your manager talk about an opposition player as much as they've talked about this Isaac Lee. And I think if they weren't pretty confident he was coming, they wouldn't be doing that. They didn't have to meet him on the side of the pitch. Michael Appleton, Liam Dooley talking to him right in public view. That could have happened inside the stadium. So I'll be surprised if he doesn't sign. I think we've made fools of ourselves if he doesn't, frankly, because there's no need to do that, and there's no need to talk about him if it's still very much up in the air. So I hope he comes. I don't think he'll be the only one. In that interview that Mike's just referred to, Appleton also said that there's one other he's hoping to do. No idea who that is. There's been rumours about Bailey De Pepper, which would be yet another striker. So I thought that was a bit weird, but who knows? And that would also be a 7th loan. And I think there's only so many loan players you can have. But he also dropped hints that he's trying to get people out still as well. And there's lots of rumours out there about relatively high-profile players who could be leaving. John Marquis, George Lloyd. If things like that happen, that releases money for yet more signings. So this does feel like I've never seen this before in January. This is absolute revolution rather than evolution, isn't it? And maybe that's what we needed. I mean, they're really going for it. So let's fair play. Let's hope it pays off, because we were at 19 points at gone the halfway stage. So we're in a very poor position, and maybe it needed this.
It's not maybe what we needed. It's absolutely what we needed, because we were going down without it, I think. Yeah, we
need a huge turnover. But obviously, thanks for going through that, Chris. Obviously, we've also got Stubbs, who's not around the club at the moment. So that's another player that, another wage that we can potentially spend some money on. Obviously, there was that article before the Harrogate game from the Shropshire Star, saying that, Appleton's pleased that the chairman is backing him in this window. Maybe that's the FA Cup money that he told he wasn't having. Maybe that's the chairman's changed his mind there. I don't know. But obviously, good to see that some players are coming and going and hopefully makes this better. And obviously, that takes us on to the Harrogate game. And like Mike, what did you make of the new lads? Were you quite also pleased to see us play 4 at the back?
Yes, tactically, I approve of the change to 4 at the back. Again, in the post-match that I saw, Appleton sort of alluded to the fact that because we brought in 3 high-profile, high-cost centre-backs, he didn't say he was obligated to play them, but he felt the club had sort of an opinion that they sort of all had to play, so that's Stubbs, Anderson and Boyle. So I think he's felt like he's had his hands tied a bit with the formation and with the sort of the freezing out of Stubbs. And I think Anderson been out of form very badly, isn't he? He's been able to change it, and he said it's a formation he's much more comfortable with 4 at the back. And I don't think we'll see a return to 3 centre halves, 5 at the back. I think it'll be 4 going forward now, because he seemed very positive about what he'd seen from the new formation and how we took the game forward and took the game to Harrogate. And he said played a lot more football in their half, which is I think what he wants to do. So yeah, the change in formation was good, and I think the addition of some more dynamic, enthusiastic, just sort of expressive footballers in the front 3. That front 3 of Cabia, trying to remember their names now, Morgan and Ogunsanya, they just moved a lot more than we were used to as a front 3. It created pockets and spaces. It gave Harrogate a lot more to think about, and they ended up playing a lot deeper, which meant there was just more space for us to push up. So it just, having that dynamic front 3 really just pushed us forward, which I thought was really good. The other thing I noticed on Saturday tactically was we'd gone back to taking the ball off Brooks short at goal kicks. Now, Brooks' distribution for me has been a bit, it's not great. He just lumps up the field, basically, which is sometimes what's called for. But because we've got Kluklas and Freeman playing at fullback, centre mids who can pass the ball, we're much more able to take that off him now and go and create something going forward and move it forward creatively rather than just lumping it forward. So I think that was a benefit as well in the first half. We can get on to the second half. Yeah.
In terms of formation, was it a 4-4-2 or was it something different? Because you said a front 3 there.
You forget
it felt like a front 3. It wasn't 4-4-2, no, because it was sort of 2 sitting shuttling midfielders, and then Marcus is sort of a 10, and then sort of 3 up around them. It was a bit of like that. So it's definitely 4 at the back, but you can sort of call it what you want going forward. But it felt like there was
maybe a 4-4-1 and forget about Marcus.
Marcus was definitely deeper, I think, was what I took from it. Unless anybody else thinks that's sort of reading it wrong.
What's your opinion, Chris, on where
take that as
we say Marcus is playing? Most people would say nowhere, but.
Well, I'm only basing it on what Appleton himself said. He described it as a 4-4-2.
Yeah, but he said a 4-4-2 against Grimsby, and we did not play 4-4-2 at Grimsby.
I think nominally Morgan was very much supposed to be the left winger. Interesting that he did a post-match interview where he said he'd never played on the left wing before. Well, so we had a lot of square pegs in round holes again. I will say that, and that's something I'd like to touch on in a minute. But Ewan Morgan was outstanding. Cabia played on the right-hand side, and then it's probably you've got Ogunsanya as your most forward striker, with I suppose Mark was playing off him. But it worked a lot better, didn't it? We were more enjoyable to watch, more attack-minded. You have to bear in mind we were playing against a Harrogate team who have been having a terrible season on a terrible run of results. In fact, exactly. There wasn't much made of this, but Harrogate haven't won a game since they beat Shrewsbury back at their place back in, I think, was it October we went there? They haven't won since. So they were looking to end their run of results against us again.
They've done, Chris, haven't they? They had 5 new signings. One of them was a mate of Ewan Morgan's, apparently, at Brentford. You knew him really well. So I think they're spinning the wheel too, aren't they?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. But possibly we've got a bit more money to play with than them. I know we go on about our finances, but I think that I get the impression they're better than Harrogate Towns. And although their new goalkeeper looked the part, didn't he? I mean, he made a few saves. Otherwise, we could have won that game more comfortably.
What I would say that we'll probably be quite positive about this game in the sort of summation of the new players and the way we played and the goal and what have you. But we did still. Harrogate were awful. They were terrible. They are doomed. If they stay up, I'd be absolutely stunned. We only beat them 1-0. For a decent section of that game, they only had 10 men. And for the last 15 minutes, we were hanging on for dear life at times. We were taking it to the corner and trying to kill time as well. So the first half performance was good. It was probably the best first half I can remember for a long time. But second half, as soon as we started reintroducing some of our, what I termed on the day, established losers, some of the new guys went off. Morgan got tired and injured, and Augustine went off. When Lloyd was introduced, when McDermott was introduced, we just started losing shape. We started losing concentration, and we were struggling for a while at the end. And I think it's worth remembering that. There's 3 points, take it, run for the hills every day of the week. The league looks great, and the results really went for us on Saturday. But again, like we talked about the last time I was on, really, I'm not calling it corner turned or anything like that. There was some green shoots there, but we got to see a bit more of that, I think.
It's quite interesting.
I agree with that.
I watch, you see the highlights, Chris, the 2 minutes that Sky produce every Saturday night, and there was nothing from Harrogate. Nothing. And I don't think I've ever seen a highlights package of any game.
Well, there was the red card from there, but yeah.
Oh, there was the red card. That's right. But I'm not saying
And
that.
to be fair, there could have been. I mean, they had an effort which Brooke made a save at the end of the first half. They hit the bar at the end of the second half.
That's not my point. My point is that even if Sky have got it wrong, and I think they have, well, hit the bar for one thing. It's a very fact that I don't ever recall Town having more shots than anybody else in the last 5 years in that highlights package, and yet we definitely would have had more shots than Harrogate. So in that sense, it's got to be a plus, because we've got suddenly forward players who appear to want to shoot, and that to me is.
I mean,
by the way, we should play
Morgan
and Freeman together. Obviously, to have Morgan.
Somebody
Freeman
put that on social media. We need them the other way around on the team sheet, because it says Freeman Morgan. But yeah.
Well, and talking of round pegs and square holes and all that, the Freeman has played central midfield most of his career. So we've got Klukas as a midfielder playing left back, Huel, who you'd probably say is a fullback playing centre back. Yeah, we do have a lot of Ruffles, who's played most of his career at left back.
Huel's looked very good at centre back, though, Ollie. He's arguably our best centre back.
I think Huel.
A revelation.
Almost been probably one of our best. Could probably say he's been our best player this season. He's consistently performed, and he's a really. I'd be disappointed if we lost him. To be honest, whether he'll sign a new contract, I don't know. But I'd be. Yeah, he's a very versatile player. I'd like to see him play right back, but yeah, we've got a lot of players out of position all across the park. Hopefully, whoever's Appleton's got his eye on next means he can move things around.
Is a point well made, but. I don't know. Perhaps I'm just infatuated with this and don't realise it. But if you're not going to play 3-5-2, I would instinctively want to play 4-3-3, right? Because that's what good teams play these days. And we've got a front three. You'd have Shea in the middle, Trey in the middle. You'd have Morgan on the left. You have Cabby on the right. That is what a three in a 4-3-3. And then you have your three in the middle who are slightly narrower. You'd have.
I keep going on about this. I think we're missing that sitting midfielder. We're missing that Ollie Norburn type who's going to sit in that hole, the player that Mike's been desperate for a couple of years, who's going to play
in that situation. You'd have Ruffles, and then you'd have two more.
I think you need someone who's. I think that's a really bespoke position. I think Ruffles is a good pro. He's shown that. I don't know, but be interested to see who we do sign next. But yeah, I think you there, Dan. I want to see us play 4-3-3.
I think on Saturday, watching it, a lot of people would have said if you take Marquise out of that team and put maybe McDermott in or one of the other sort of running midfielders, you probably have a better, more cohesive unit. Like Dan's talking about, you have a subject three in the middle, and then you can let the top three to go for it. But equally,
is there a risk we've got three kids up front? Is that a bit of a risk?
They were so enthusiastic. The risk is possibly.
You sound like Alan Hansen, man.
One of the problems I thought, but one of the issues I thought is we were watching it, and the Harrogate manager must have been doing his top, because Morgan gets the ball, he cuts inside, he runs across the front of the box, and shoots.
Bit of play.
So as a fullback, Dan, you've got to think that their fullback's got to be showing Morgan down the line, because when he's cutting inside, he's having that shot every time. And I just think if you're the manager of our next opposition, and you watch the tape back and you either double up on Morgan or you show him down the line, it really nullifies probably what was the most effective thing we did in the first half, which was getting him shooting and getting Harrogate pegged back and getting the crowd on side. And, it's a different game if Morgan's not in it. I think he did so much in the first half that it gave him a platform to build on. I just think, although there was good stuff in there, I think, it's not that difficult tactically to unpick sometimes. And, I just concerned a little bit that we get sort of thought out a little bit quickly. Maybe that was my concern on Saturday.
I guess I didn't want to say it earlier because I didn't want to kind of ruin your flow. But I guess it's going to take a bit of time for these players to bed in. So at least it's positives, and there's
Yeah.
some
Well,
look like better caliber players that Appleton has got so far.
He was definitely good, and I thought there was a lot more to get from Ogunsungwe. Actually, some of his touches, he gave us a target to hit, and the ball stuck to him. His touch was really good, and he would lay it off and go for the return again. And he was a bit isolated at times. We still have a habit to smash it long, and he was throwing his arms up and saying, like, "What the hell am I supposed to do that?" He wants the ball to play with it, but he will fight for it as well. So I think he can be a real pivot for us and a target to hit at the top of the pitch, which would be really nice because it sort of bounces off Lloyd and Marquise a bit, so he might make it a bit stickier, which will be really good as well. So yeah, I think it's really positive and a move in the right direction, but some, a little bit of guarded pessimism in there, I think, possibly.
I think that's right, Michael. What the thing I liked about it, and Trey was one. I think he thinks he scores goals. I think he's like, give the ball, I'll bloody score. And I tell you what, I'm all over it. I'm here for that. I want a bit of young arrogance who thinks he's. I mean, George Lloyd. I don't know George Lloyd obviously as an individual, but I don't think he thinks he's going to score. And yeah, I think Trey. I don't know, just something about him at Wolves, Chris. I just felt he ain't coming here to mess about. He wants to score a hat-trick, and I like that. Come on, guys, show us what you got.
They were all positive, weren't they? I was just going to say they were all quite positive. One of my highlights from that game was straight after the red card. I mean, Harrogate understandably sat back because at that point, you're down to 10 men, you're going to defend, and it can get difficult. How many times have we watched our team playing against 10 men and failed to break them down? But we did go for it. And in the 15 minutes after that red card, we created so many chances. Their keeper kept them in the game. He made one great save from Taylor Perry, didn't he, before Perry actually went on and scored moments later. And when that goal did come, it was coming, if you see what I mean. We were taking the game to them, and that was nice to see because I've seen us many times not do that. And when you see a red card, the crowd expects an easy win at that point, but that brings pressure in its own right, I suppose. And I just thought, let's see if we can actually break them down. Well, we did it, and I really thought we'd go on and score more. So then I was a bit frustrated that the last 15 minutes was more difficult because Matt, to be fair to Harrogate, they had to go. They had no choice, did they? They're losing in a game they couldn't really afford to lose, and fair play to them, they had to go at us. And I thought that would create spaces for us to run into and score ourselves. But unfortunately, we seemed, as Mike said, when the substitutions happened, I think our quality levels dipped, which was a shame. But it did show the quality of those new players.
Yeah, and Mike, would you think it was a fair second yellow? Their manager didn't think so.
Well, yeah, of course I do, because I'm a Shrewsbury fan. There is a rule that if you block a quick free kick, it's a straight yellow, no matter what.
Threw the ball away.
That's it. Yeah, a quick restart, and he was already on a yellow.
He flicked it away, didn't he? Perry went to pick it up, and he kind of batted it away. It's a yellow card. Yeah. I mean, I replied to the Harrogate tweet about that with the video of them assistant manager's interview because he was talking claptrap. It was a yellow card all day long. Was it their
assistant? Was it not their manager?
That's because the manager had been sent off, so that he can't. The rules are he can't then do the interview. So the assistant manager had to do it because Weaver was also sent off late in the game. But yes, it was the assistant manager who did the interview, and he talked gibberish because it was clearly a booking. And to be fair, who remembers the first booking? That could have been a red. It was an awful challenge on Capio.
What rule does he not understand, Chris? Would be more as well. You threw the ball away. You delayed the restart. It doesn't matter how far you throw it away, you dumbass. It's a yellow card. It's a yellow card in the Vets League just as much as it is in the AFL.
We were trying to take it quick to throw, because we had numbers. It could have been a breakaway. They stopped us having that breakaway. It's a booking. It's not up for discussion. It's bizarre. I can't see what their fuss was about.
Probably just deflection. The fact that they've lost another football match. And what did you think of the goal?
It's a good striking. I think the funny thing was, obviously, we've been building a bit of pressure, and we've been sort of when people who you wanted to shoot had got the ball, you'd be shouting shoot around, Morgan and people. The ball came to Taylor Perry, and I shouted out, not in, because in my sort of memory, every time Taylor Perry shoots, he bangs it over or bangs it wide. He's not what I would call a consistent shooter. And then before it was in the back of the net, I was saying, no, him, because it was a good strike on target, left-footed. I don't think Taylor Perry is known for his left foot particularly. I think the keeper does get a hand to it. And when I watched it back this morning, I think the keeper might think he might have done better with it, possibly sees it late, possibly takes a little deflection on its way. But yeah, great strike. And I still like the fact that he's got the confidence to have a go, even though more often than not, I think he does slot it wide. Good goal.
According to Steve Cross, it is arguably the greatest goal, or was it one of the greatest goals he's seen at the New Meadow?
I can only think that either Steve Cross has a bad memory or hasn't been down there that much, because I can think of at least 2 Dave Hibbert goals.
Aaron Pierre against Bristol City. I mean, from 30 yards. I mean,
Cansdale Sheriff.
Right. It was a good goal, though. I don't want to, watching it live. I agree with people. Now I've watched it back. Maybe the keeper could have done better, but watching it live, it looked good. Watching it live, you've got a better view, Dan, because you're behind the goal. But from my
mine
position,
is an anti-Steve Cross comment. One of the greatest goals at the New Meadow. You're an idiot. Sorry, I can name you 10, and I'll just open game gambit. Aaron Pierre against Bristol City, but it's
great goal.
Does this guy get paid?
Hibbert against Ipswich, but you're going back a long way.
A very good goal, Anyway, sorry, just throw that in.
Cool. So obviously that was a key win, wasn't it? And takes us above Bristol Rovers in the league table. Takes us up to 20th in the league table. Hopefully that also gives Appleton something a little bit positive to talk about as well. If he's trying to influence players to try and join us, it can't be easy, can it? Trying to entice players to come and join a team in a relegation battle. But I have to say though, fair dues to the kids. The kids like De Morgan and that who have joined us in a relegation battle. It is testament to their kind of their confidence in themselves. Mike,
I would also say, speaking of the kids, obviously we're all talking about the new players that are signed, but I thought that additional energy and sort of dynamism in that front line really helped Cabia raise his game again. I think he's been a bit sort of dogging it out at right wing back, and sort of he's been doing a lot of the hard work for the team, but he seemed to really appreciate having some different movement up there to work with, and he seemed to really link with Trey very quickly. And I thought Cabby had a good game, and he looked like a bit of a refreshed player with having some different options to hit and some different players to play off as well. I thought that was really positive for him, because I like Cabby. I'm a fan of his, and I think it only helps that he looks like he might be staying as well. There was
reports he's going to stay. And then the final question, Dan. Also, there's 3 people that liked playing right back on this podcast. How did you think that Dan? How do you feel that Nick Freeman got on at right back?
Well, I think
obviously, I was really surprised he came in and played the full game.
Yeah, I think the thing about Freeman is he looks to be a 7 out of 10 player throughout his career. No matter what everyone else is doing, he's 7 out of 10. So in a really good side.
Appleton, that's exactly what he said.
Yeah, exactly what he said.
Actually, word for word, actually.
That's a bit spooky. Okay. Well, anyway.
And we know Dan doesn't do pod prep, so he definitely didn't listen.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Ollie, for that. But I think he's a solid performer, and I think the first thing that occurred to me is he knows what he's trying to do here. He has got an idea about what is feasible and what is not feasible. He ain't going to be Roberto Carlos, but at the same time, he's not going to stand on the halfway line like an old school right back. So I felt straight away that he had an idea about what he's doing. I've got a feeling he's not going to play there that frequently. I don't know why. I think there may be a move to bring him further into the centre of the park. But I mean, I don't know quite. I haven't thought that through to its logical conclusion. That would mean Hall moving out to right back, I guess. But I thought he was
maybe
pretty
new
solid.
centre back coming in.
Yeah,
we'll play 4 at the back. You can't play Anderson there.
No, you cannot.
Just
we saw that at Wolves. Yeah. I felt a bit for Anderson at Wolves because he's in the wrong place, in the wrong position. If he's going to play, he's got to play in the centre. But I wouldn't want to play him there either. But
I feel like Shrewsbury might be the wrong place for Tom Anderson, sadly.
Well, you may be right. You may be right, Mike. Yeah. But I thought the Freeman looked like a good acquisition because he streamed to me. He's been training for 2 months with Stevenage. I know it's not game time, but he's clearly up for it. He's fit, and it's the type of gamble.
Not that I noticed.
Not really. I mean, the last 15 we got worse, but I don't think it was because of him. And I don't think there were too many people calling for him to be taken off. So I'd have thought if I was him, I'd be quietly happy with everything that he did. Really.
Yeah.
Solid debut.
Hopefully, another good sign from Appleton. Yep. Does sound like there's a marked improvement with Appleton signings, and it'd be interesting to see where we go.
Another reason that the win was important, Ollie, and we'll get to this, I'm sure, is the next 4 games are not easy.
I was just thinking.
We've got 3 tough away games, and Barnet have picked up since we beat them at their place. But I think the league table looks goodish now, but I'm not sure how goodish it's going to look in 4 games' time. So I think a win was doubly important for that reason. It's MK Dons away. It's the missus is already planning our
IKEA again.
Oh, the Holy Trinity. Yeah, Walsall, Bristol Rovers, MK Dons.
Okay, well, I can blame the... Oh, yeah, it's at the top. Sorry, the club website confused me there. Yeah, we're playing MK Dons away on Saturday. And then, we've got Cambridge. And then we've got Barnet, Colchester, Barrow on a Tuesday night at home, which obviously going to be a massive game.
That's rearranged, isn't it? Because that should have been when we were playing Wolves.
That's the
And
next
then
big game. But if
we've
we can
got
get anything,
interesting. We have 3 home games in a row. So we've got Barrow, Swindon, and then Notts County, and then we play Accrington. So there's some tough games. Obviously, Cambridge are picking up points again. They're doing well, but there's some winnable games in there as well. And I think, having 3 home games on the bounce is hopefully going to give us some just rewards. Cool. So any final comments on Harrogate game before we move on?
no, I just want
go on,
one, Mike. You go first. Mine's not very sensible. So,
Well, I was going to say it was a real refreshing experience to have a big game that meant a lot to the town and actually get the result. And I think I've talked on the podcast this season about how it's been a bit of a battle trying to get my lad to come and watch the match. He's 8 years old. And we'd spent the morning in the pub watching the Man United game. Brilliant game of football, unexpected result, like everything football should be. A brilliant watch. And then he was like, "Oh, we're going to go to Shrewsbury now." And Shrewsbury played well, created chances, scored a goal, and he had more fun watching the town than watching the Man United match. He had a brilliant afternoon at Shrewsbury this weekend, and it made me realise it doesn't take much. Shrewsbury haven't got to be Barcelona; they've just got to be in the game. They've got to compete. They've got to look like they want it. They've got to play take some chances and take some risks and play some positive, encouraging football. And it made me realise that for all the shit we go through, you can have a good experience at the match if it's good. And I think that counterbalances to, and I know you guys didn't want to talk about Wiltshire briefly, there was supposed to be a fan protest on Saturday that basically didn't happen that I could see. On 10 minutes, there was supposed to be, for 10 minutes, they're supposed to be chanting. I didn't hear any. If you were in the South Stand, you might have heard a bit more, Dan. I don't know. I saw one bed sheet rolled out that said rolling out, whatever. I think there is a place for a protest at the moment and pressuring for a change of ownership. I think possibly I'm thinking about it today. The purpose of a protest should be more around communication, clarity, openness about, because we know he's trying to sell it. What is happening? Give us updated. Who's in it? Who's not? Whatever. But it was really nice to see the town fans positive at the end. Clap the team off. My lad had a great day. It is possible to still have a good day at the town, even though we're shit at the moment. These things are out there if you look for them. I think that was kind of my takeaway on the day. We've had a great weekend because the town won. It's still there, it still happens. What were you going to say, Dan? Something slightly less. Yeah.
Before we get, is there any other further comments on the protests? Like, I
thought it was the wrong game to do it. That was
clearly the wrong game.
Massive game for us. And I went there to support the team on Saturday.
But it's not a protest group. It's just a random Twitter account that makes. So yeah, for me, it's really strange. It's a secretive, unknown protest group. It could be a Wrexham fan, for all we know, who's having a giggle at Shrewsbury Town fans' expenses, and they post randomly out of nowhere in yellow, which doesn't really make any sense to me either, in a font that's quite hard to read. So, and yeah, funny enough,
they know how to get on your nerves, don't they, Ollie? Fair play.
Which is not. It's like everyone's like. I understand that people are looking for maybe some kind of focal point or something for a protest, but posting a picture online is not a protest group. And as we've seen here, it doesn't. It didn't achieve anything. I'm not saying people shouldn't protest and people shouldn't be upset, but if something's going to happen, if you want to do something, my advice to someone who wants to form a protest group is you need to actually get people on your side, and probably doing it anonymously is not really going to help your cause either.
I think Mike hit the nail on the head. You need a bit of focus. Just saying you want Roland out. It's like, I'm not sure that's good enough. I don't know what you should say, but I'm not leading the protest. Not for me to make it up. But I do think you just need a little bit more clarity and a bit more organisation and a bit. Your aims need to be a little bit more feasible. It's like, I don't know. It just struck me as a bit half-arsed, and I wasn't that surprised it didn't go anywhere.
Yeah,
or at least didn't go anywhere on Saturday.
Yeah, when I talk to people and it's like, well, what's the protest about? And you say, well, it's about getting Roland out. Most people say, well, isn't he trying to sell the club? And that sort of dissipates a lot of the focus of that particular aim. It's sort of already happening, essentially. If you're trying to, I think the problem with the takeover, and there's a point of it on the agenda, takeover, what takeover? The communication by the club about what status any potential takeover is in, if there is even a takeover on the cards, what timescales we're working to, who's in touch. It doesn't exist. I think the pressure should be around transparency around the takeover. That's where the pressure should be coming from the fans. It should be about transparency. It should be about communication. It should be about setting the agenda of giving us timescales and places to go with the takeover. Because if as we're led to believe, the club is for sale and Roland is actively selling, where are we? What's the plan? We want monthly updates. We want, other clubs are able to do it. They don't have this period of exclusivity. You can't talk about anything with anybody. No,
they do have exclusivity periods, but they announce there's going to be like Tranmere. There's regular communication. There's just a vacuum of nothingness.
But also, you might talk about in a minute. There was the article in the Eye which talked a little bit about the takeover, which I hope you'll do a bit more detail on in a minute, Ollie. But they were talking about the club has been for sale for 4 years. That is a huge amount of time. So many other clubs have been sold in that time. What are we asking for? If the club is on the market and Roland's asks are XYZ, it's public knowledge, because if you want the bid pack, it's going to be in there what they want, what they don't want. So communicate to us what are the stakes, what are the clauses or the asks in the sale, so we as fans know what the club are asking for, what Roland's asking for in his sale. Is it a value? Is it particular conditions around land covenants or maintaining the naming of the Roland Wycherley stand? We just don't know on what terms our club is being sold, and I don't think that's acceptable. So I think if I was going to give any advice to anybody setting up a protest group, would be make the pressure around transparency and clarity and communication. If the club is genuinely being sold, keep us in the loop. That's what we need. And that way you'll have the information you need to put more pressure on if it doesn't happen.
Yep, no, fair. That's fair point is there, Mike. So there was an article in the newspaper. Daniel Story contacted me. He's writing an article about Shrewsbury. And then, he asked me to answer some questions, which I duly did, because obviously you're not going to say no to someone from a national newspaper talking about your own football club, because it's not often, is it, that national newspapers talk about Shrewsbury apart from the Daily Mail. Daniel wrote an article, and when he read my comments, he was like, I can see why you are the most miserable fans, because he pulled out a stat that I hadn't done it in this way, but going into the game against Harrogate, we'd won 12 in 77. That's not many games, and as you say there, Mike, he called on the fact that the club is apparently for sale, and it really seems to be getting anywhere, and it is frustrating. Lack of information is frustrating, and lack of change, because I think we're all just concerned about the direction our football club is going. Is the kind of the headline, and that's probably why the person if they are a Shrewsbury Town fan, that's why they created a group, probably because obviously they're frustrated as well, which a lot of the fan base are.
It was interesting that there's an article about Shrewsbury Town in a national newspaper. There's obviously the story's getting out there, and people are getting more interested in the plight of our club. I think the protest group is. I do think it's Shrewsbury Town fans. I think they're well intentioned. I think they've got the right idea, and we do want a change of ownership. That's the only way to safeguard the future of this club. I think personally, this club is on a knife edge. It's pretty existential if we go down. I think we run the risk of being in real dire straits if we don't sort it out. And I think Roland Wycherley doesn't seem to want to fund it anymore. So the intention is right. It's just form it a bit better. Be a bit more clear about yourself, and be a bit more clear about your aims, I suppose. But that article in the Eye, that's happened. We've had the article in the Daily Mail now, so it's starting to build, isn't it? A little bit around that national pressure.
Yeah, I think that's Dan. I think there's a lot of noise coming from your end.
Loads of noise in the background for somebody.
Yeah, it's definitely Dan.
Let's go back to national pressure trying to build, is it?
Yeah, just you do that again.
Yeah. And so with the articles in the Eye and then one in the Mail and this, we're starting to feel that sort of national pressure and that national interest start to build, which I think could go some way to grease the wheels a little bit and put a bit more pressure on, hopefully.
Yeah, we always want some change, and hopefully get some change on the pitch, which hopefully this win against Harrogate is a kind of step in the right direction. But there was a lot of rumours circulating around after the games. Obviously, there was the Isaac Lee photo that was doing the rounds, and then there was a couple of rumours that Marquis potentially going to Gillingham and George Lord going to Walsall. So if that's the case, and a few more come in and go out, there's going to be a huge churn this January transfer window.
Yeah, and just like Chris, when we talked about it earlier on with Chris, it had to happen. I think we were pretty doomed if we hadn't had these changes. But again, it's all bets on Appleton now, isn't it? There doesn't look like there'll be a change of manager. I think we're kind of stuck with him come hell or high water. He's been given this window and backed by the chairman, and he's.
Well, that's a question I always wanted to ask. If we lose, I don't know, if we lose heavily to MK Dons, do you think there's much risk that he's going to be sacked?
No.
That'd be stupid to sack him.
I think
it's
so.
ridiculous. He's brought in 5 new players. We've just won a
Yeah.
big game. I mean, like, it's just it strikes me as people are not
It's
serious.
an easy
who
answer,
go
isn't
through-
it? Sack the manager, and I think it's
saying that he might be sacked, but I think it'd be stupid to do it now.
Yeah, no, I think so too. It was interesting that the like Mike was talking about, obviously, a bit more focus on Shrewsbury. The BBC EFL podcast did pick up Daniel Story's article and talk about Shrewsbury, and obviously there's ex-pros on there. They were talking about how hard it is to turn a losing mentality. You talked about losing players earlier, Mike, and we've all seen it. So yeah, it's going to take quite a bit of time, and yeah, I don't. We said this before on the podcast, and we kind of are repeating ourselves here. But you could put, we put Ainsworth in front of this bunch last year, and he didn't do anything with it. We've had so many managers now. I think it's all about the players, isn't it, and changing.
I mean, I would have sacked Appleton by now. I think,
but it was bloody. Should have done it in October if you're going to do it.
He should have done it before the window. I think he sort of, for me, he's kind of proved that he can't really work with the tools at his disposal. He wasn't getting a huge amount out of the existing squad. So the gamble is: do you give him quite significant, like, free reign to change quite a lot of the playing squad to see if he can get a squad together he can work with, or the other option was get rid of him and give somebody else to go with what's already here. I'm surprised the club have gone down the significant transfer route, because I don't really know how we're funding it, frankly. But it's a lot of loans and sort of cheap players, so I don't suppose that's a problem. But we've rolled the dice now. It's Appleton or bust, really, in this new sort of shaken up squad, I think.
But we've also seen, it was quite an interesting piece. I haven't read that Dan Story piece. I'm not really interested in reading it, I'll be perfectly honest. And that's got nothing to do with you being in it, Ollie. It's not personal. I've had enough of shit stories about Shrewsbury Town. I don't need to read that. But if you look at clubs who struggle and the changing of managers, and this is across all football, there's quite a lot of data-driven analysis on this. The turning of the managerial wheel very rarely works. Right, I know people talk about, Big Sam, keep sides up, all the rest of it. But statistically, the problems are deeper than a new manager coming in. And Ainsworth's the best example of that. And he's gone to Gillingham. He spent a bit of money at Gillingham. But where are they? 16th, or they were before. And they had a good start to the season. I think when you've got deep structural problems, just changing the manager is not enough. And we should know that. We've tried it, 3 times? 4 times? The problems are deeper. We are back then to the ownership structures, to the governance structures, to the way we've recruited in previous years. And whoever we bring in now at this stage has got to deal with that. And I can't believe that Pep's going to come. I can't believe we're going to get a manager that's so different that we'll be able to fundamentally change our culture now. That doesn't mean that you keep with Appleton at all costs, but just changing your manager because the results are poor, I don't think is a sensible move. There has to be more going on. There has to be a more strategic element to it than that.
Yeah, that's
I've yo-yoed on it.
If I say we got to sack Appleton, people say, who would you have instead? I say, well, that's not my problem. I just get rid of him because I don't know who else is out there who could do it. So yeah, it's the other half of the equation, isn't it? If you do change your manager, who do you bring in? Yeah,
I've yo-yoed on it. I mean, I've been backwards and forwards with Appleton. I quite like him as a human being when I've met him, but sometimes I found it hard to look at. Before Saturday, we were 8 without a win. We'd lost 5 in a row, and I think to myself, well, the pressure's clearly there. But that's where I think you need clarity of thinking, and everything that we've just said makes sense to me, and that we've backed him now. I think they've made the decision, as it were. If they were going to sack him, it had to be a week or 2 ago. They've backed him now. They've allowed him to bring in 4 or 5 players. There's 2 or 3 more to come. If we then lost to MK Dons and sacked him, that would say to me complete lack of clarity of thinking from the top of the club, because what was the point in allowing him to sign those players and then bringing in another manager who might not want them with no time to bring in his own players, as it were. So for me now, they've made that decision, and we've got to give him a bit of time, and otherwise, why give him the chance? He's done it now, so let's and it's one game. We've had one game against Harrogate, so it's not exactly a sample, but there's hints that we were better. So now I want to see him build on that.
The only way he would get sacked is if any sort of protest builds any sort of momentum and the chairman starts getting a lot of pressure and he has to deploy Operation Human Shield and sacrifice his most recent manager. That's the only way he's going to go now, really. I think, like I say, he's
to be honest, we don't want that to happen, do we? Because we want obviously Shrewsbury Town to win some games and pull clear of this relegation zone, because I do not want to go down to the National League. That would be an absolute disaster. One
thing I thought was quite interesting with Appleton's little black book, because he's clearly got one, is that we've now got 2 players in from Brentford. Now,
I was trying to find a link between the loan manager and Brentford, but I couldn't find anything.
Well, I know some quite a few people at Brentford, and I've not got anything out of them that made any sense. I didn't, they didn't say anything that made no sense. But I don't know. I think it's
there's no link between that. I can't remember the Brentford loan manager. What's his name again?
I don't know that.
I can't remember. Yeah, I did actually search it, but I can't remember. But there was no links between them. They never played together or anything.
I think it's not got a little black book. He's got the phone book, and he's gone A, Arsenal, Cabia, B, Brentford. He's got these two. He's working. We'll have some from Chelsea next week.
Wouldn't say no to a good Chelsea centre midfielder, but cool. Any final comments before we close the pod? We're over an hour now. Any final thoughts, Daniel?
Well, I generally have the final thought that's of no interest to Amanda B, so I thought I might as well carry on that trend. But I couldn't help but notice Mike's already signs it.
I'll sign off here. I've seen
this. This is important. The world needs to know this, Mike. I like left field stats. I've got two for you. Right, okay. First of all, I found out. Yeah, I found out.
Final thoughts.
Okay, yeah, very quickly. I found out Wolves. If Wolves and West Ham go down, folks, right, and it's possible, in fact, probable they will, there will be no team in the top flight of English football that begins with W for the first time in the history of English football.
I heard that one.
You can have that one for free. The second one is that now that we have played Harrogate, and Mike's just about to leave the pod, we have now played all 5 English cities that have hosted towns that hosted the Eurovision Song Contest. There you go. You can have that one for free as well. What are the 5 places, Mike? Do you know who've hosted the Eurovision Song Contest? Come on, man.
I can read them off the agenda, but I don't want to have to contribute to this conversation if somebody else can do it. I bear no interest in Eurovision or this statistic.
I didn't realise you were such a fan of Eurovision, Dan.
Well, the story is a work-related one in that in 1981, the UK won Eurovision. We know this, guys. We know this. Who won in 1981? Bucks Fizz. Of course, Cheryl Baker had a skirt famously ripped off on the stage at in Brighton. This is Brighton is the result of Cheryl Baker's Bucks Fizz winning the Eurovision Song Contest then. So, and we have our graduation at work on the stage where the 1982 Eurovision Song Contest was held. So yeah, we've got lots of. Can I start that again?
No.
Yeah.
No.
No, you can't. If anyone has
shit
stayed,
stat. Yeah.
If anyone has stayed,
I got my years
to this
mixed
point.
I told you it was a shit stat.
You can't have any more time, Dan, for that. Anyone who stayed to this end of the podcast, thank you very much for listening.
I think you've got to mop that up. Poor bloke. He hasn't even said it was Brighton, Birmingham, Liverpool, and Harrogate. Christ, I'll finish your crap for you, Dan. There you go. Yeah.
Jeez, I messed that up massively. Anyway, I just thought
your anecdotes are normally really good fun. Also, you had the Ainsworth one. I've had some good anecdotes, but yeah, you let you think about the slide down there, Dan.
Yeah, rubbish.
Maybe we should go on to talk about NFL, but no, I think let's end the podcast.
Well, that comes down this evening. Yeah.
If that's happening, me and Mike are definitely off.
Yeah.
So thanks everyone for listening, and
you're going to leave that in, aren't you?
Sorry,
you're going to leave that in, aren't you?
Absolutely.
I had a little minimal editing as possible.
So Harrogate has held the Eurovision Song Contest. That's the line, and no one knows that. Yeah, no one knows that.
Gentlemen, think about the podcast title. I'm going to close this off now. Thanks very much for listening. We'll probably come back maybe in a couple of weeks' time. Probably not leave it too long again because obviously transfer window. The window will do what, Daniel?
Oh, the window will slam shut. It never closes. It will slam.
So we can come back. Maybe we'll have Stubbs with us or not. Who'll know? But yeah, lots of things to talk about, I'm sure, in the next few weeks. And yeah, thanks for listening. And yeah, have a good one.
Cheers, Ollie.
Cheers, all.